Hi, my name is SITI nor IDC YUSNI from IM1102C 2019407776. In this video, I'm going to share my review on the Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs. The contents of this PRL2 is synopsis, theme, character and characteristics, setting implied, and also the moral values. So we're going to start off with the synopsis. This short story, The Monkey's Paw, is about a family of Mr. White, Mrs. White, and their son Herbert that will soon introduce a man known as Sergeant Major Morris. One night, Sergeant Major Morris paid visit to the White family and told us stories about war, experience, and even wanting feeling of going to India. But soon then, Mr. White brought out a topic about the monkey's paw, and Sergeant Major Morris told a story about an old dried out monkey's paw, which is told has been put a spell upon by an old fakir. The monkey's paw had an ability to give three wishes, but the downside is that within every wish there will be a curse where every wish has a price to pay that even could get one hurt in the end or even death. The Sergeant Major Morris threw the monkeys in the fire, thinking that he wanted to get rid of it, but then Mr. White saved the old dry out monkey's paw, saying that he wanted to use it to make his wish. Uh, with the monkey's paw in his grasp, he then made the first wish that is to have 200 pounds, upon his son's idea, thinking that it could help them pay off bills. The next morning, they receive a message from Herbert's workplace, which is Herbert is dead due to an accident at the workplace where he got caught in the machines and mangled in the machines at his workplace. The company told them that they did not take any responsibility on what had happened, but then they gave a compensation money of 200 pounds. Both Mr. White and Mrs. White sudden realization hit them when they knew the wish that Mr. White wished for the other night had been fulfilled, but with the death cost of their son's life. Mrs. White was devastated to the limit of asking Mr. White to make the second wish, which is to bring back their son back to life. He was reluctant but did comply to making the second wish that night. They heard a knock on the door. Mrs. White tried to open the door even though Mr. White insists her not to do it. Uh, Mr. White made his third wish, causing Mrs. White to fall on her feet and cry loudly before Mr. White came to calm her down, which in the disappointment there was no one by the door. And moving on to the team, there's three teams in this PRL. The first one is Fate. Sergeant Major Morris said that fate rules people's life. He also said that if anyone dares to interfere with fate that has been written, they will suffer the consequences, which is we as a humans, we should always accept what God has written for us because everything that He written are His plan, and we have to bear whatever the task He gave us because He knows what the best for us, and we should accept it and not turn our back to the fate because we should not do anything about fate. We just have to accept it. And the second one is the supernatural. The monkey paw is a magical artifact that has been brought up by Sir Major Morris from India. The monkey's paw had an ability to grant three wishes, and it also has an exotic and mythical quality that draw on the Old East cliché as a place which is essentially supernatural. And the third one was vain belief. As that was first mentioned in the story when the white received the money from Herbert's factory after he got into accident where he got put into the machine and mangled to death. Death also got mentioned when the son of the White has been dead for 10 days, and Mrs. White wanted to use the monkey paw to make a second wish for her son to be brought back from the dead, as it is an absurd, insane, and unreal. So Mrs. White had the Mrs. White believed that if she asked her husband to make the second wish, about making their son to be brought back to life. It could happen, even though this thing is not real and should not be taken easy on. And moving on to the character and characteristic, which we have four of them. The first one is Mr. Y. Mr. White's characteristic is he had an unfounded belief, ill-mannered, and sense of right and wrong. The first one is unfounded belief, which is this attitude can be seen on page 4, paragraph 6, where Mr. White looked at the monkey's took the monkey's paw from the fire and examined it carefully before asking Surgeon Major Morris on how to use it and how to make a wish. Ill manner is when he listened to his wife wish to brought their son back to life, even though he know that it's wrong, but he still do it anyway. On page 12, paragraph 4, when he said, "I wish my son to be alive again." And the third one is the sense of right and wrong. When he made the second wish, he suddenly feels like that is wrong and something is not going well. He knows that he rushed to look for the paw on page 14, paragraph 1, where he frantically breathed his third and last wish. The next one is Mrs. White, Mr. White's wife. She is warm-hearted. She has an attitude of refusal and immoral behavior. Warm-hearted is when she tries to comfort her husband when he lost to Herbert playing chess game. She said that never mind, dear. Perhaps you'll win the next one in page 1, paragraph 6. Refusal can be seen upon after 10 days after Herbert's death. She are usually seen sat by the windows and will not go to bed even though Mr. White called for her on page 10, paragraph 5, where she said, "It is colder for my son," showing that she could not accept the death of her son even though she knew that her son is already dead. She still thinks that her son are not being okay in the grave. He is cold, so that even though she is feeling cold, but it is much worse for her son. And immoral behavior is on page 11, paragraph 3, when she forced and insisted that Mr. White should make the third wish, which is, I'm sorry, insists that Mr. White should make the second wish, which is to wish for their son to be loved again. Her behavior scares Mr. White, and he called her mad. Herbert White's characteristic is nonchalant, unbothered attitude, and enthusiastic. On page 5, paragraph 8, he told his father to make the first wish, which is he said that his father, well, wish for £200, then they'll just do it, even though his father already said that they got all they wanted and it. Even though he heard Surgeon Major Morris told the story of the consequences about making a wish using the monkey's paw, he still just give an idea to his father, like he act like something is okay. And the unbothered attitude is that when his father claimed that after making the first wish, the monkey's paw moved, and he responded with, "Well, I don't see the money," means that he doesn't care about what his father say and just took easy about the monkey's paw actions as he picked it up and placed it on the table on page 6, paragraph 3. He also an enthusiastic characteristic where the next morning he looked at his father and laughed when after remembering when his father said that the monkey's paw moved. So he find it very funny, and on page 7, paragraph 1, he keeps on laughing. And the last one is the Surgeon Major Morris. He has a brotherhood psyche, a heavy drinker, and also a foresight attitude. Brotherhood side, is that he insisted that he would not give the monkey's paw to Mr. White, as he said, "If you keep it, don't blame me for what happened." Even though he said that he, in his word, meaning that he trying to insist Mr. White not to have it and just burn it in the fire, but then he could not say anything as Mr. White shows a lot of interest on using the monkey's paw to make a wish. Heavy drinker is that on page 2, paragraph 3, shows that after he had his third glass of whiskey, his eyes got even brighter and he began to sulk and gaining the interest from the White family. Meaning that after he first arrived at the resident. He was drinking the whiskey with Mr. White, and after his third glass, he became energetic and wanted to tell the story much more in his own way. And the foresight attitude is that Mr. White was eager to keep the monkey's paw, although Mr. Sergeant Major Morris warned him about the consequences after you made a wish and wanted to burn it on page 4, paragraph 7, where he strongly warned Mr. White about making a wish. We'll move on to the setting and plot. The first setting is the location, which is in the living room of Mr. White's family home called Laburnum Villa. Page 1, paragraph 1. Without the night was cold and wet, but in the small parlors of Laburnum Villa, the blinds were drawn and the fire burned brightly. The second location is in a large cemetery, when the burial of Herbert White on page 10, paragraph 3. In the huge new cemetery, some 2 miles distant from the house, the old people buried their dead and came back to a house steeped in shadow and silence. And the time setting in this PRL is in the bright morning, page 7, paragraph 1. In the brightness of the wintry sun next morning as it streamed over the breakfast table, Herbert laughed at his father. This is during the time the next morning after Mr. White made a wish. Herbert was laughing at his father's action, claiming that the monkey's paw was moving. On a dark night is on page 6, paragraph 7, when he sat alone in the darkness, gazing at the dying fire and seeing pieces in it. The exposition is at the Laburnum Villa. One dark night was cold and wet. Mr. White and his son were playing chess. Then Sergeant Major Morris came and shared his experience about becoming a soldier for 21 years. The rising actions is when Sergeant Major Morris decided to throw away the monkey's paw and wanted to burn it, but then Mr. White saved it and said that he wanted to use it to make a wish. And his son Herbert gave an idea about making a first wish, which is £200. When he made the wish, he claimed that the paw was moving and it fell on the ground. The next morning, they received a news from Herbert's workplace that Herbert had been in an accident after he got caught in the machinery at his workplace and killed. The climax is that it occurs when Mr. and Mrs. White receive the news of Herbert's death at his workplace during his working hours. Mr. and Mrs. White received the £200 that Mr. White wished for the other day, and it turns out in the form of workers' compensation. Thus, this is the consequences of the wish they made the other day, resulting to Herbert's death. It's like the wish they made was exchanged with Herbert's life. Therefore, both of Mr. and Mrs. White realized that they should not take easy on the monkey's paw power. The following action is that after a week of the funeral of their son Herbert, Mrs. White was still in a state of grief. She even had a thought of an idea to make the second wish, which is to bring the son back to life. The outrageous thought made Mr. White to disagree upon making the wish, but due to a lot of begging and forceful behavior from Mrs. White, finally he made the second wish. That is to comply and wish for Herbert to be alive. At first, they thought the wish was granted when suddenly they heard a loud knocking on the door. His wife wasn't scared and claimed that it was Herbert. He then tried to stop his wife, but she managed to break free. And the resolution is when Mr. White became aware of the second wish that he made and sensed that something is wrong, and when he heard the knock on the door, and his wife claimed that it was the son, as she quickly ran downstairs and called out for her husband to help with her to open the bowl as she could not reach it. She ignored her, and he quickly got on his knee and searched for the paw. He heard the scraping of the chair that Mrs. White pulled and the creaking of the bowl that Mrs. White opened. He found the paw and quickly made his third and last wish. The knocking sound finally gone, and he waits until he heard Mrs. White falling on her knee, crying loudly as there is no one at the door. So the moral value is be careful about what we wish for. the monkey's paw wishes always come true, but there's always bad consequences and cruel exchange things. Uh, on page 5 at the last paragraph, the old man wished for 200 pounds and his wish was granted the following day, but with the exchange of his life. This means that they get the wish they wanted to, but there will always be unwanted and unexpected consequences upon the wish you make. Except that the destiny on page 10, paragraph 3, a week after Herbert's burial, Mrs. White stayed up in the middle of the night close to the window. Mr. White gently asked her to come back to the bed, but she refused as she continued to sleep. Then Mr. White was suddenly woken up by her wife, saying that he should make the second wish, which is to bring their son back to life. Even though Mr. White made the second wish, he quickly used his last wish, and then he heard that his wife is crying downstairs upon opening the door, and there is no one there. Be grateful is that the White family is particularly fortunate than other people, but the White family is not grateful as it can be seen on page 5, paragraph 8. Mr. White says that he got all he wanted and he didn't know what to wish for, but he still made a wish and his son told him to do it. Herbert is also being ungrateful despite living a pleasant life and even a job on page 6, paragraph 3. Mr. White makes a wish where he says that he did not see the money, even though his father claimed that the monkey's paw was moving, and he will never see the money. Even on page 7, paragraph 5, he did not want his mother to split the money before he came back from work. So thank you. That is it for my review on PRL2, The Monkey's Paw by W. W. Jacobs. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.